all that you need to do is go behind and change the film that is being projected through the projector. So, when a movie is being projected, there are three things there are three components. Three components are, number one, there is the light in the projector. Number two, there is the film that is moving through the projector at a certain speed, which lends a reality when it is projected onto the screen. And the third component is the screen. So what is being projected on the screen is the film moving at a certain speed through the light that is there in the projector. Similarly, the world that you and I are seeing is projected onto the screen, is projected onto the world, but this is only a projection. What really is happening is that the light in the projector, the light in you, Atman, the light of all lights, and thoughts that are going through your mind at a certain speed project this wonderful three-dimensional movie that you and I are seeing. So if there is anything in the movie means the world, that you don't like, it's no use going directly out there and trying to change things in the world. If you don't like your mother-in-law, don't try and change the mother-in-law. All you have to do is change your thoughts, change the way you're looking at the mother-in-law. And believe me, the whole relationship will change. If you don't like your boss, it's no use changing jobs, because you will be as unhappy with the new boss as you are now with the current boss. All you have to do is change your thoughts, and your attitude towards the boss will change. According to you, you will say, oh, my boss has changed. But actually what has changed? Your thoughts have changed. So therefore, the three components are Atman in you, which is a neutral entity, just as the light in the projector is a neutral entity. The thoughts that flit through your mind, over which you have control. Nobody in the world has control over your thoughts except you. And it is this movement of the thoughts in the presence of Atman that creates this fascinating world that is being projected. So, unfortunately, your focus is on the projection. Your focus is not on the film behind. Your focus is not on the projector. And therefore, you're barking up the wrong tree. All of us are barking up the wrong tree. And so, there is something or the other in the world that you and I want to change and never succeed changing. Many years ago, I met one of my classmates in college, got married with this mission that I will change my husband. I met her a week ago. She's still trying to change her husband. And I could not bring myself to tell her that, look, your husband is not going to change. You know why? Because your thoughts are not changing. The moment your thoughts change, the husband will miraculously change. If you don't believe me, try it. Vedanta is an experimental science. Now, don't go back and tell your husbands or wives that, look, I'm going to change you through my thoughts. He'll think you've gone nuts. But it is a fact. And so, therefore, watch your thoughts. Most of us are unaware of the thoughts that are flitting through our mind. Control these thoughts. With what do you control thoughts? With the intellect. Alter your attitude and trace their effects in the world, and you'll find there's this miracle happening outside. Now, in the Indian tradition, we're still on the divine and the demonic. The Indian culture, remember one thing, India is the longest unbroken civilization in the world. We have a formidable culture. It is Americans and the Westerners who come to India and are saying, your economy is growing at a fantastic, enviable rate. and everything is hunky-dory for you guys. But never lose track of your culture, because then you've had it. You and I don't understand the importance of this culture. But in this incredible culture that we have, one most important facet of it is how to silence your own negative qualities and how to promote the best qualities in you. And they were masters at it. Every single aspect of our culture is designed towards that. And so, last year, the Nobel Prize for Medicine went to two scientists, two doctors, whose study and research was how to silence genes that cause disease. Am I right? They got a Nobel Prize for silencing genes. What do you think of people who, right down the centuries, have devised a method that has withstood the test of time to silence gunas? Gunas, traits, negative traits. So how did they do that? Just as in your intestines, it is said that there are what is known as the normal flora, means there are bacteria that are present in your intestines. And their invaluable contribution to us is that they maintain a certain pH, they maintain a certain environment that is not conducive for disease-causing bacteria to flourish. This is the secret behind how you and I eat off the streets. Isn't that true? You eat pav bhaji, you eat bhel puri, you eat pani puri, you eat all kinds of stuff full of viruses and bacteria. And yet nothing happens to you. You're carrying on beautifully because of this. Because the moment you eat it, the environment is such that disease-causing bacteria cannot flourish. And so you are in health. You are flourishing because of that. But when Westerners come, they have one sip of something and they're flat out for the next 10 days because they don't have this wonderful system which is not conducive for pathogens to flourish. Similarly, in our culture, the whole system was designed in such a way that all the good qualities flourished. Good vasanas flourished and the bad vasanas faded away. So today, unfortunately, we have created an environment that is good for all the negative things to flourish. You switch on any television channel, you read the newspapers, you look around, you send SMSs and speak over the phone, and it is all designed in such a way that negativities will flourish. Where is the positive environment? And even when we make an effort to create a positive environment for 5 evenings, 1.5 hours each day, you say, oh, I can only come on the first day, as if you're doing me a favor. Or you're doing the Gita a favor. These 5 days, if you cultivate these thoughts, positive thoughts, powerful positive thoughts that will maintain an environment both internally in your mind as well as externally in the environment in such a way that all positivities flourish and negativities fade away, you will have done what you were born to do. This is our only obligation in life. And this is the only thing that we're not doing. So, coming back to the chapter, let's take a brief look at the entire chapter. The first 5 verses deal with the divine and the demonic traits. Krishna gives out 26 qualities of the divine and 6 qualities of the demonic. You might wonder why this overwhelming prejudice towards the divine. Because demonic qualities you and I are experts at. We can give him a lecture in demonic qualities. Divine is what we need to cultivate. So he gives 26 wonderful qualities of the divine, which as we go along you'll find extremely inspiring. And then 6 to 15, he tells us about the demonic nature. See, the basic difference between the divine and the demonic, between the good and the bad, is just knowledge. The good people, the divine people, have knowledge. Knowledge of what will help them to excel in life. Whereas the demonic don't have that knowledge. The demonic keep picking what we call as instant pleasures and sign up for permanent unhappiness in life. Tragic. 16 to 21, he tells us how the demonic people condemn themselves to a hellish existence. When we say go to hell, we're not talking about a geographical location, please. We're talking about a state of the mind. A state of mind which is full of agitations, disturbances, stress is hell. As Milton said, the mind is its own place. It can create a heaven out of hell and a hell out of heaven. The other day, a young girl came and said she was contemplating marriage. And she had a choice between a friend of hers whom she liked. Not fallen in love, but just liked. And a person that her father had chosen for her. So she came to me to ask, which of the two should I choose? And I said, you know, marriage is like Russian roulette. It doesn't matter whether you know the person or not know the person. So between the two, you pick anyone. What really matters is how you're able to deal with the person, how you're able to interact with the person, how you're able to deal with the situation. Because as Milton said, you can make a heaven out of hell and a hell out of heaven. You can marry the best person in the world and be miserable. You can marry the worst specimen of humanity and devise a method of gaining happiness. That is why when a young man went to Socrates, the famous Greek philosopher, and asked him, Master, should I marry or not marry? Because, he had seen all the married people like us and almost come to the conclusion that he should not marry. And yet at the same time, when he thought of himself as single, he felt like getting married. So he was in a quandary. And Socrates immediately said, by all means marry, young man. And this young man was looked up, had doubt written all over his face. So he explained. He said, if you find a good wife, you will be a happy man. If you marry a bad wife, you'll become a philosopher. So now you know why all of us are here. And verses 22 to 24, he concludes by saying how the divine get liberated. Wonderful series. And with this, now we begin the first verse.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Dhanam Damascha Yajnascha Svadhyayasthaparjavam.
Fearlessness, inner purification, resoluteness in knowledge and yoga, charity, sense control, yajna, sacrifice, self-study, austerity, and uprightness. So let's take them one by one and see what it is. Number one, abhayam, fearlessness. What are the causes of fear? What causes fear? If you understand, then you will know how to be fearless. There are 4 causes of fear. Number one, otherness. The moment you feel different from someone, there is fear. This explains why Indians in India, they do all kinds of things. They throw junk out of their windows, they throw pieces of paper out of the car, they spit out on the roads, etc. But the moment they get out of India and go to Singapore or Dubai or the United States, they make the best citizens. Why? It's not because they have value for that. Fear. What is the fear? See, you know exactly how to deal with a Havaldar here. But if you get caught by a cop in America, you are at a loss because the method that works here doesn't work there. Otherness, fear. Second, ignorance. People are afraid of the dark because of ignorance. You don't know what is there in the dark. A typical example is fear of death. There is nothing fearful about death except the fact that you don't know what is going to happen. Third, selfishness. As long as, this is a law. Anywhere in the world, you see a selfish person, he will be fearful because, see, selfishness creates a sense of insecurity, creates a sense of being threatened. Unnecessary, it's all imaginary fears. And viciousness. In nature, those of you who've had the opportunity of going out and watching other species, animals, will find that a carnivore is always alert, always fearful, is always looking behind to see what's going to attack him. Whereas a herbivore, a cow, is totally secure, fearless. Why? Because the carnivore is vicious. Similarly, among human beings, people who have a vicious tongue, people who entertain negative, vicious thoughts towards people, they are fearful. Those who are benevolent towards their fellow beings are usually fearless. So, a spiritual person is one who has moved from plurality to duality and has reached the state of oneness. A realized person has reached the state of oneness. He is totally fearless, like Prahlada. What an example. A young boy who was faced with all kinds of obstacles, all kinds of threats in early childhood, and yet, because he was a devotee of Vishnu, which made him fearless, he was, even in the end, when this frightening avatar of Vishnu appeared, half man, half lion, Narasimha, and the whole court was shivering in fear. Prahlada stood there fearless. You must think, what is it that made Prahlada fearless? And try and emulate that. That quality is timeless, it goes beyond all time. So, in fact, he met with the situation with such dignity that Vishnu Narasimha, after he dealt with all the demons, came to Prahlada and said, Prahlada, I am so pleased with your devotion, so pleased with your character, that I will grant you a boon. Ask for anything in the world that you want, anything in the heavens that you want, and it will be granted to you. And you know what Prahlada said? He said, I'm not a vanik. Vanik, businessman. I don't trade with devotion. I loved you for the sake of loving you, not because I wanted anything in return. And this is what makes a person fearless. And so a spiritual person is free from these, therefore he is fearless. What an outstanding quality. One who fearlessly executes spiritual commandments, one who fearlessly follows his own conscience, is admirable, is powerful, is heroic. It has nothing to do with your physical attributes. It has nothing to do with the wealth that you may command of the world. It has something to do with inner pursuit of the higher. Second, purity, sattva samshuddhi. In the Bible it is said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. It is so true. I don't know if you've had the opportunity, it's a blessing to have had interaction with a person who is pure in heart, who has never entertained a vicious thought in his life. He may not have the talent or the intelligence or all the other qualities that make for success in the world, but just this purity of heart, that's all that he has to have. And the world will serve him. I've seen people who've had this purity of heart and they don't need to do anything. Things just fall in their laps. And others think that he's a lucky person. There's no such thing as luck. He's paid the price. And it's a heavy price to pay. You try removing a negative thought from your mind. You try removing hatred from your heart and see how difficult it is. But if you achieve it, sattva samshuddhi, this purity. The purity means no mental agitations. And what causes mental agitations? Desire. So, a person who is pure in heart means a person who has no desire. How is it that desires come? Desires come in your system because of a sense of emptiness. And remember one thing, all of us from birth to death, from morning to night, every waking minute of our lives are obsessed, haunted by the sense of emptiness. You may have the whole world at your command, but still within you, you have this wretched emptiness. And to fill this emptiness, thoughts arise in your mind that go out into the world in the belief that if I get objects from the world, the emptiness will go. But alas, it does not go. Bill Gates, with all his fortune, is still as empty as the beggar on the streets. And the question that arises in our minds is, then is it worth putting all your effort to gain all that? If at the end of the day you're going to be as empty as a person who has nothing. And yet at the other end of the spectrum was a person like Sudama, who had nothing going for him, poverty-stricken. But had this immense sense of abundance. So much so that even when he was sent on a mission to ask for help from Krishna, his first and last thought was, what can I give? Abundance. So a spiritual person is one who has knowledge of his abundance. Remember one thing, all of us are blessed with abundance. But the problem is, the mind has this unique ability of